Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Is everybody else joining in? Do you have an idea? Or Onyx Karnataka, do you know if people are joining in?
We are joining.
Okay.
25 people are there, it is.
Okay. All right, we can get started, and then I think once people join in more, we'll have them here. So which all teams have joined? I know Srishti Infotech, I can see them. SH Systems, Vaishali, which all teams? Comtech Dharwad, right?
Kavita Computers also has joined.
Kavita Computers have joined. Yes. Okay. Kionix. Okay. Fine. Okay. Fine. I think we have at least some quorum, and then let's see others kind of join in. All right. So today and next class, that is on Wednesday, what we will do is we will do some sort of a sessions, interactive sessions on interviews and group discussion, right? And we'll split this two classes, and we'll see which group gets to do what and how, etc. And I would like to keep both these classes, that is today's and Wednesday's, interactive, where not only we do these interactive sessions, but we would also like to get questions from your end to me, to myself. That is whatever questions you have in terms of in general, and it need not be only about cloud and blockchain and the IT topics. It can be anything. It can be anything around industry, or if there is something which you are specifically wanting to as a part of your overall career, etc. So more than happy to answer them, right? Because now I think we have spent almost close to 3 months where we have been having these classes. We have multiple sessions. We have covered different topics. We have had case study presentations, etc., etc. So I think we have done quite a bit. So I think it's time to also reevaluate, how much have you grasped, or what are you what are your takeaways, etc., as well, right? So I think the next two classes will primarily keep our discussions in terms of this, so that at least you also have some sort of a practice and training around that. Friday, we have a class, and Friday we will keep sessions for the L2s, right? And Kionix Karnataka, I just wanted you to note it down. I will send specific topics, etc., later, so that which you can distribute to all the L2s. So I think we have 13 L2s, and I will group them. I'll group them into group of 3 or 4, etc., so that together you are able to work on those projects or presentations, etc. I will send all those instructions, right? So that should be fine. So Friday we will have that session wherein the intent of that session is for the L2s to participate, number one. Number two is also looking at the L2s, the students, they also learn in terms of how probably a presentation should be made or a topic should be covered, etc., etc. And third, of course, it gives all of us a learning opportunity to kind of interact together, right? So I think that's what we would do. If we are able to cover everything by Friday amongst all the L2s, then I think the next session will have something different. But if not, then we'll extend it to the following sessions after the few holidays which we have, right? So end of the month, etc. We'll do that. So so that's fine. I think we can figure that out. But primarily, I think this is what I wanted to kind of do. Any questions? Do you think this is a good idea, or is there anything else you would want to recommend? And centers can let me know. Kionics teams can let me know. Do you think this is okay? L2s, do you think this is fine? This approach? I think you're on mute, Altaf.
Yes, sir. I agree on this one. We can go on this model. This
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's good, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, all right. I think I see a chat. Vaishali Computer says good ideas. Okay, fine. So I think we all are in agreement. So I think let's try this. Okay, all right. So which team wants to go first? First, let me know. We'll try to cover as many teams as possible in the today's class and next class. What we would do is maybe it could be a group of 2 people or a single person or a group of more. It all depends on which teams are. And I'm going to take up some topics in the sense I'm going to be the interviewer. I'm going to ask certain questions and treat this as a mock interview, as if you are going to be you have come in to apply for a job, you have been selected, right? And hence this interview session is going on, right? So that would be the mock. If it's a larger group, then we can have some sort of a group study, group discussion as well, either in today's class or the next class, and again we can figure that out, right? But which team would like to go first? I think that's what I'm asking. So who is ready? And I will tell you more in terms of the questions, etc., how it is. Nothing to worry. But let me get a which team would want to go first. Or if nobody is recommending L2s, can you recommend which team?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I am Suman from 15 for Tech Kundapur.
Okay. All right. You want to go first?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Sure. There is a question in the group says Vaishali Computer says topic. It's not a topic. It's a mock interview. So it could be anything. There's no specific topic. Right? All right. So so Srishti Infotech, who from your team is going to go ahead?
Sumant, sir.
Sumant, raise your hand. I think I can't see. Okay, got it. All right, Sumant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is what we will do. All right, and while this is happening, I think the rest of the teams, please note down the line of questions or the line of answers, etc. And after the interview gets over, we will ask you for the feedback as well, which you can share with Sumant, right? And then I would share and I'll sum things up. Okay. All right. Now, Sumant, what are you studying?
Sir, currently I am pursuing BCA.
And which year is this?
Final year, sir.
Final year. Okay, fine. Okay, awesome. Okay, all right. See, what I will do is see, as a BCA student, you would be getting opportunities from different IT and tech companies for application related job roles, etc. Right? I will not ask you any technical questions. Right? Typically, in the interview, the way the interviews happen, there are 3 to 4 rounds, or some companies have even more rounds, right? Depends. We will not get into so many, but I'm just giving you the picture. The kind of organizations you can typically get job opportunities from, and I'm talking about Indian context in today's scenario, right? You name the IT services companies like your Accentures and Infosys and HCLs of the world, they are one options, right? You talk about a Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, the technical team on those organizations, they would also have similar kind of skill sets which they may want to. You talk about very pure play organizations like an IBM or an Oracle, they would also have application kind of a skill sets person for their roles, etc. So all these are the different possible organizations, and of course there are startups, there are other companies also. So it's endless, there is possibility is endless. I think that's the first thing which I want to say, right? Second is, typically in the rounds of interview, there are technical rounds, there are HR rounds, there are your what do you say, cognitive ability kind of rounds where people would like to see your presence of mind, right? There are rounds wherein certain examples are given, and you are asked to think out of the box and on the feet at the same point in time, right? Then there is a cultural round where they want to see the overall fitment, whether you fit into the organization, etc., and all these things. So these are the different kind of rounds, right? So this exercise, we will not have any technical questions, because that is something which I will leave it, because you all are technical experts anyway, right? Where people typically struggle, right, is not the technical round. People typically struggle in the other rounds. People struggle in terms of the cultural fitment. People struggle in terms of ability to think on the spot, right? People when they're given certain situations, then they are not able to articulate properly, right? The intent of this entire exercise is to help simulate a situation like that, wherein you are able to answer, you are able to think on your feet, and at the same time you enjoy the interview conversation. It's not a stressful situation, but interview should never be a stressful one, right? Interview should always be something which you would look forward to and have a conversation. It's as if you're having a conversation over a cup of coffee with your friend, right? So that's typically the mindset with which you should go for an interview, instead of being really stressful, right? So given all these things is something let's have a mock wherein we would be able to assess, right? Cool.
Okay,
All
sir.
right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So firstly, welcome to this role that you're applying for, and you are applying for a technical specialist role, given your background, where you would be working with teams and on certain projects for the clients. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, of course, I'm making all these things up because this is a mock, right? In reality, it will be much more detailed job description, but then this is what it is. Okay. All right. So
Yes, sir.
how has your interview journey been so far? This is the second round you're attending. So how has it been so far? What all the rounds have you had so far? How has your experience been?
Sir, yeah, it's good, sir. So in aptitude test, they made to answer some questions about technicals and about general questions. These type of questions we are having day-to-day life. So these are important. So domain knowledge is important, sir, because technical, all the institutes are studying, but domain knowledge is very important. And so these type of aptitude tests are helpful for us, sir.
Okay, sure. So you found the aptitude test helpful, which is great to know. Given your background, what is your core specialty? If I have to ask you, what would you be the best at? What is your biggest strength at work? What would that be?
Sir, as a, I know, sir, my strength is so thinking differently and in some of the logics and logic building and problem solving. These are some of the skills, sir, because if any type of question there is many of the people thinking in a single way. So I am trying to thinking a multiple way. How if I do this, what happens? If I didn't, what happens? So these type of thinkings make me a strength in this field, sir. Because this
Okay.
field wants this, sir.
Okay, sure. So let's take an application, right? If I
Yes, sir.
ask you the question, how many, where are you from?
Kundapur, sir.
Kundapur. Okay. So how many petrol pumps are there in Kundapur?
Sir, Kundapur.
Or there are no petrol pumps?
So here Kundapura in the city, it has only one, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that is Bharat Petroleum. It
Okay.
is
So it's an easy one for you. So let me rephrase the question. So suppose you are in Bangalore. Let's assume that you get this job in Bangalore.
yes,
and
yes,
you're
sir.
staying in Bangalore, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
how many petrol pumps do you think are there in Bangalore?
Sir, it's a tough question to me. Okay, I'm trying to answer.
Yes.
So
How will you go about answering is what is important, right? So
yes, yes. So basically, I am not from Bangalore. So there might be because of the vehicles are more, and also as I know, compared to our cities, there is a much more companies that are selling petroleum products in Bangalore, sir. So in our areas, what happened? Bharat Petroleums, Indian Oils. So these type of companies are common. But in Bangalore, there are several companies. That is the names which I didn't know earlier. That type of petroleum products selling companies are there, as I observed. So I think maybe 200, 300 petrol pumps are there in
okay.
Bangalore.
Why do you say 200 and why not 1,000? How are you
So
arriving at that data?
yeah, I know. In this big city, sir, this Kundapura big city. So from
I'm talking about Bangalore. Yeah.
yes, sir, I'm telling, sir.
Okay.
From this city, as I know, from our village to Kundapura, there is most about 20 to 30 kilometers, sir. But the petrol pumps are only 4 to 5. The vehicles are much more, sir, because every home they have a vehicle, but the petrol pumps are about 5 to 6. So this I observed and analyzed that there may be a 200 to 250, not 1,000, because 1,000 petrol pumps are not meaningful as I compare to our cities. So 200 to 250s are enough for the vehicles of that Bangalore cities.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
So let's assume that in the next 5 years, Bangalore
Yes, sir.
city is going to expand even further. More companies are going to come, more migration, and that is happening, right? I mean, even if you
Yes,
see
yes.
last 10 years back and now it is different, right? So let's say more migration is happening and Bangalore city is expanding further. So how many more petrol pumps do you think, it is required to help the city? Number one, right? Number two, if you were to use a technology, right, or you're learning, how would you advise the government of Karnataka in Bangalore to ensure that every area or every locality has some sort of a petrol pump? What would you advise? Or technologically, can you think of anything which will solve this problem for the government?
So as we know, sir, in our India, electric vehicles are progress, sir, because the technology and the experiments going on in electric fields are much more, and also governments are very much helpful for electric vehicle customers, sir. As we know, they are providing subsidies. So I would recommend electric vehicles for the electric charging stations for the government, because it's also helpful for the people, because if they want electric vehicles, they must want electric chargers. So as I know, sir, the people are hesitating. People are not hesitating. They were afraid for buying electric vehicles because of the charging stations. I would refer to the government that they provide more and more electric charging stations. The petrol pump may required less, and charging station will require more, sir. So I would refer electric charging stations.
So how many such charging stations would you recommend?
As so currently in the main cities they have electric charging station. In Bangalore, I think there may be as they in petrol pumps they can also fit electric charging station, as and including that they can create more 50 to 100 extra separate electric charging stations, as totally 300 to 350.
But how are you arriving at that number?
What's sir?
I mean, how are you arriving at 300 to 350? How are you so sure that it has to be 300 or 350 and not else, like it's more or less? Like, I want to understand the approach you are taking when you're recommending a number.
Yes, sir. My intention is that in case of there is having only 2 or 3 chargers, we have to put many chargers in that place. So in that time, what happens? The number of charging stations will be reduced, sir. If we are providing more and more chargers in a single station, then the number of stations will be reduced. So in that approach, I am saying.
But do you think, like, providing more charging points in one single station may not be feasible, because one station may only have so many options. You cannot have 100 charging points in one single station. You may need to actually have more. So then how will you solve that problem?
By improving technology, we are they will try to reduce the charging time. As company are experimenting on technology, they will definitely reduce the charging time. As we know, Tesla is completes its charge 0 to 80% in 20 to 30 minutes. So this is the approach. So if there if the technology goes increasing and they reduce the time, then it is enough, sir. That 350 charging stations.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I'll stop here. Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And before the feedback, I wanted to tell you that the question that I asked, like, how many petrol pumps are there, right, is one of the topmost popular questions asked in Google. This is a real question asked in a Google interview. Like, how many petrol pumps are there in Bangalore? Or if you have a square room, how many balls will fit in over there? How many tennis balls will fit into that room, right? So these kind of questions are called as cognitive ability questions, where the intent of the interviewer is to see how you think. There is no right or a wrong answer. It is all about the thought and how you are able to articulate that. Correct. So that's the intent of these kind of questions, right? And this question which I asked you is actually a real-time question that you will get if you get a chance to interview with Google. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, before I share the feedback, I want the others, the teams, to share, like, if you were to answer this question, how will you answer it? What could be done differently, and the approach. I want to hear from the teams. In fact, I would request the L2s to participate also if there are some feedback which you think, like, you would be taking it as different. I think we all can learn from each other together, right? So how would you like to answer it differently? I think some people are speaking, but they're on mute. I'm not able to hear. Who would like to go? See, I mean, the class would be interesting if we interact with each other. Otherwise, it will be boring.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Abhilash, L2 from Kavita Computers.
Okay.
Probably instead of directly giving a fixed value saying that Bangalore could have like 250 or 300 odd number of petrol bunks, we could go with selecting a particular like average square mile, saying that okay, probably in a square kilometer of like a radius of 10 kilometers, probably but in Bangalore you might find like 10 petrol bunks at the center of the city. And if you go, away from that, probably in outer ring road or in the village limits, probably that number would reduce.
Yeah.
I would go with that kind of approach, where I believe that could be a bit of a safer approach comparatively.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you said, suggesting electric vehicles, that was a good point, definitely. But again, electric vehicles, as he clearly mentioned, the charging speed definitely comes into the picture, because you cannot charge an electric vehicle, and the same set of chargers cannot be placed everywhere, charging centers, because there are third-party charging stations also. And only fast chargers would charge a car very fast, and the regular chargers would take at least 8 to 12 hours to charge a car. And nobody would be would be patient enough to do that, especially if they are commuting. So in that case, probably at the outer part of the city, you could place strategically place faster chargers, so that if people are going out and if they realize that they forgot to basically charge their car overnight, so they could place there and do that. That's one more point I could think of.
Okay. 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 Good points. What else from the other teams? Anybody else wants to share anything different? I see Vaishali Computers, the group discussing a lot amongst them. Maybe you want to share with us also?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, share with us. Share with us.
Sir, for that question, yesterday we were discussing among ourselves. We have not like different answers. From my point of view, like improvement improvement can be done, sir. If improvement needs to be done, then it will be like we can take use of fossil fuels, sir. Like we technically suggest to have more electrical nitrogen and nitrogen vehicles, as well as solar panels to charge our time of parking.
Okay, sure. I mean, that's an interesting thought for sure. Okay, fine. Anybody else? Okay, I'll share my feedback, right? So the learning is, whenever this kind of question comes, right, or asked, firstly, always think that there is no right answer. You cannot have a right answer. The interviewer is only trying to look at the approach, how you are thinking on the spot, and how logically you are thinking, right? I think that's important, right? I think the example that Kavita Computers talked about, that maybe the one of the ways of logical thinking for this question would be, and this is irrespective, it can be a Bangalore, it can be a Mumbai, it can be a Delhi, doesn't matter which city you are coming from, right? It's the city at the end of the day, right? So it's just a name. Maybe your first approach could be let's assume this city is of so many square feet, or so many square kilometers. Let's assume that the entire city is divided into so many blocks, because it's all block, right? Each block is an area. Each block has X amount of population. If it is X amount of population, then let's assume that there are so many vehicles per population or per household. And if that is the case, so many amount of petrol pumps are required. And that is the assumption flow. So as an interviewer who is asking the question will think that this person is able to, the problem statement has been given. Now you are breaking down that problem statement. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the approach is breaking down the problem statement. Approach is not arriving at the right answer in the interview. It can be 350 petrol pumps, it can be 600 petrol pumps, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, right? The approach is problem solving. Now, what Srishti Infotech, you did, was like, you talked about, you straight away went to a number, right? The
Yes, sir.
moment
Yes,
you,
sir.
the moment you do that, the interviewer will instantly ask you the question, how did you arrive at the number? Because the interviewer is not thinking of any number, right? Interview wants to kind of, see that, like, how you are logically thinking, right? So never arrive at something like that straight away. Never. Always break down the problem into statements and step by step try to assume. So you should use words like let's assume, or let's consider, or let's, like, have an approximate. So everything is all about assumption, because here you are just talking logically and you're assuming and trying to arrive at something, right? Because it's not a final answer. So that's
Yes, sir.
number one. That's number
Yes,
one.
sir.
The second is, like, when I asked you a follow-up question in terms of, like, okay, technology, if Bangalore is growing, let's say, technologically, how will you try to solve that problem? Your example of electric vehicle as a solution is a good example, right? But again, the same approach, like, how many such stations you would be saying, like, 150 stations or something like that. My question was immediately, why 150 stations? It could be more than that as well, right? So never assume that. Maybe you could have said that, like, given the population migration in Bangalore is increasing X percentage year on year, we estimate that by the next 1 year, probably the population is going to be so much, right? And then instead of, like, having like, petrol or diesel run vehicle, we would recommend X percentage of household to at least have one electric vehicle. And given a number of petrol pumps in Bangalore, given the new area of expansion, we would like to install at least in one particular area 2 stations. So if I have, like, 10 areas, I'll have 10 into 2, something like that, right? So that is how you would be breaking it down, right? Then your follow-up answer of, like, how the charging speed, etc. I think technologically that is also very important. That was a good example. But how will you stitch the story by saying that, like, once you have arrived at this, you can also say additionally, if I am able to have certain speed at which the charging is happening, then I may need to increase or decrease or have so many number of, like, charging points per square kilometer area, whatever that is, right? So you can add on to that. These would be your additional, like, examples, which will have a very solid answer, right? So
Yes,
I
sir.
think
Okay.
that's the approach you should be taking. So again, your answer was not wrong, because I'm not judging whether you are right or wrong, right? Your answer was not wrong. But imagine between you and somebody else who would be answering it in a different way, the other person will get a higher score,
Yes, sir. Yes.
right? So what I want to tell all of you is, like, it's the approach which matters, especially specifically for non-technical questions, right? It's the approach which matters, because in reality, when you are actually going to be working in the teams, let's say in organizations, right? You've got a job and you're working, you will always be faced with a situation, you will always be faced with a challenge where your thinking will come into the picture. See, technically, we'll solve the problem, because ultimately, if an approach is decided, you will go and kind of solve the problem. But how do you typically come at that approach? I think that's important. Hence
Yes,
these
sir.
questions. So as an interviewer, one would try to evaluate whether the person is able to think on the feet and how smartly the person is kind of thinking.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That was a warm-up question. Like, I hope everybody understood what I was trying to say and everybody tried to kind of, get right.
Yes, sir.
So next team, who is going next?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Welcome. I think you did well. Welcome.
Regarding charging the station, hello.
Yeah.
Regarding a charging station, my thinking is that instead of the how the cylinder is they were using it, no, the empty cylinder is giving again immediately we are taking the fill the cylinder. In the same way, in the some stations we have to give the batteries, then take the same companies the batteries and to start means we should not waste the time to get the charge because sometimes it will get 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Instead of the way we have to think it to suddenly arrange the batteries in the particular stations. How
Right.
we are seeing the syllabus.
Right. Yeah. Sure. All right. Which team next? Who wants to go next? It's going to be a different type of question. So who wants to go next?
Hi, sir. This is Soumyajit from Vijay Companies.
Okay, Abhijit. All right. Are you going to be the one?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Okay. So Abhijit, what do you do?
Is it like complete interview or yes, sir?
No, I'm saying, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Are you studying? Are you working? Or
So presently, I'm just working for an organization Unilever as an SAP PP consultant.
Unilever? Okay, fine.
Yes.
And your team, focuses on what part of the business for Unilever?
PP production planning. Sir.
Production planning. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Great. Are you solving? Okay. So, are you working for any Unilever's trying to solve Unilever's own problems, or are you also customer facing? Like, are you trying to?
We have certain organizations naming as Ekatera and Indonesia, Kipa, and everything. So we just go and have tickets from them. So we just need to go and solve all the production plans, whatever they have the problems with the POs. So we just go takes any quality problem, anything. We just go and solve, connect with them, and go and rectify.
Okay. So yours is also to do a lot with customer support.
Not exactly, not directly with the customers. Sir. We just go on with the clients itself.
With the clients directly.
Yes.
Okay, sure. All right. So from your work, right? And since you are working, I'll ask, my question is going to be from your work itself, right?
Yes, sure.
Tell me, a client challenge that you faced, right? And how did you solve for it?
Sure. And that can I at least explain some deeper so that you can at least understand it.
Yeah, shortly you can explain. I think that's the right approach. But after explaining, I mean, don't take too much of time explaining it, but then go to the challenge and then how did you typically? Yeah.
Sure, sir. I will be in the point.
Yeah.
So the challenge that we faced is one, the PO we have from the Ekatera. That is a one organization what we go on. That is Ekatera is one organization that is going through with the Indonesia, Malaysia, and USA. So it take care of the tea procurements. So one challenges we got is that
tea.
Yes, sir. Lipton.
Okay.
So one challenge we got is about the PO production planning, the production, the order which is they have generated. So one procedure they have is once they generate the PO, it goes directly to IBD, that is the bounding process, which they need to give an invoice to the next production for the country, the warehouse. So they have created the production, the PO number through the Ekron. Ekron is the one server that is a mediation, what they do. So once it is done, but the POs have been re-triggered back, where but the complete warehouse product have been shifted to the Malaysia, but the PO is not generated because of the quantity issues.
Okay.
So that is the one ticket what we got. So we just, when I got the ticket, so I just need to go and check what exactly the problem is. We need to go and check with the quantity and the T points. We have the different points what they trigger us. We just need to check with the points, and we have different landscapes like UPK2, Sirius, and these are all the landscapes what we have. So I just go and check each and every points with that. Once we go and check it, we just go and rectify. Got to know that it is a quantity problem where they need to enter 100 as a quantity, but they have entered 1,000 as a quantity. So that is the one point that we got triggered, and one more in the back end that is through the ABAP. There was a point full stop was missing where we just have the master data. In the master data, we just give as a client name, that Malaysia as a one name that we give in the master data. In that, they need to enter the point, Malaysia dot. So they have missed with the dot. That is the one reason where it did not trigger. So we just go on have rectified with the 2 days. get to know, because that is the one dot where no one have point out. I mean, no one were getting to know that it would be the point that would be missing and it is an error. So completely we got checked with the quality and the points and everything, the similar numbers what we got. That was completely okay. And one we have changed with the quantity, that is 1,200. That got fixed, but also the problem was facing going on further. Then we got to know, like in the above, we have an re-triggered option where we can go on have a sample points and we can re-trigger, where we can get to know like it is what exactly where it is getting the error. So then we got to know like it is a problem of we get back to the ABAP team and said to change with in this backend program stating that Malaysia dot we need to change. Then we it got the rectifier. There's the one problem what we got.
Okay. Okay, thank you for sharing. So in your answer, a lot of times you mentioned like, we got to find out, we understood, we figured this out, etc., etc., right? So you use the word we a lot, right?
Yes.
What did you do specifically in that entire process?
I need to get on.
Who is the we and who is the I? So I'm trying to understand, what did the team do and what did you do?
My team will, we have different landscape like U2K2, Series, Acron, and Fusion. So where my team will get to have one each person have different landscapes. There where they need to go and check with one of the landscape with each person. So my job is for the Acron, where exactly the main production orders, PO orders will be triggered into the Acron. So my concern was like once they backend check with the landscape, my teammate gets checks with the landscape. So then they come back to me and I need to go on re-trigger with the point with the ABAP team. I need to go on re-trigger with the sample points. Then we get to know. I will get to know like where exactly the points is getting wrong.
Okay. So if you were to fix the problem or make life simpler going forward, what is one thing that you would do to ease the process or make it much more simpler?
Much more simpler. I mean,
or maybe like such errors don't happen. This PO errors, etc., doesn't happen. What would you be kind of doing in the entire process you described, like which can actually help solve, not repeat this kind of problems in the future? If you were given a choice, what would have you done?
Yes, with this problem, I have just got one Excel sheet got ready, like where I used to go filter everything. So before trigger, sending this POs directly to the server or triggering back to them, I just said one sample Excel sheet they need to send me, where so that I will filter back and go on take out all the points and the dots, whichever is the extra or everything, so that I will trigger back and send back to them. They will go to the server system, so that it avoids making every time with the PO errors. That is the one what I made.
Okay, sure. Is there anything other than Excel that you would like to use so that these things are much more automated?
It can be automated in Acron system itself, sir. One actually we propose them to change the software with in the backend with the Acron team, say stating like if any dots are because one before triggering of the POs, they will be having a master data first thing. So once they send the new master data every week, first the backend, in the background, the software need to check, verify, match each and everything. Is it the same? The previous what we have given. Once it is same, then it need to go on trigger. If not, again it need to get back and at least delete the extra one or the missing one. That is the one what we have suggested. So they are trying to implement and it would be working by next week.
Okay, sure. All right. Okay, thank you. So I'll stop and then we can have the feedback discussions, etc. And I will share my feedback. So, so team, this is open for all. Any feedback? Anything you would like to answer differently for this question, or do you think what he answered was good, or anything could have been talked differently, etc.? What are your thoughts? Any feedback? I mean, even L2s can give a feedback. Okay. Since there are no feedback, I'll share my thoughts, right? So firstly, thanks for answering. This was good. Uh, this question, what I asked you, how will you solve the problem, or the we versus I, right? What did you do versus what did the team do, etc., right? These are again actual real-time questions that are asked in Amazon interviews.
Yes.
Right? Now, Amazon has 14 principles, and this is one of the principles where it says that the leaders are right a lot. So which means, I think this principle number 4 or 5, I don't remember exactly what that was, but this is one of the principles which talks about leaders are right a lot. So what this means is, as a individual, and every individual is a leader in their own way. Leader doesn't mean that I'm managing the team. I'm a leader in my own way as well, right? So what this means is that when I take a decision, I take the right decision most of the times. Yes, I can fail, but that failure percentage is lesser. So readers, so that's why the concept of I come in, like what did I do versus together as a group, what did I do? What did the team do? That's a group work, right? Collaboration. Hence, this is a real-time question. And you will find this kind of questions a lot in these global organizations. Whenever you are interviewing or appearing, you will see that this kind of questions are asked again and again, correct? So I think your answer was good. You really explained the problem in a short and crisp manner. Initially, for a few seconds, I didn't understand the PO system, etc. But then when you again re-explained, I was able to understand that the PO was raised, not raised, or incorrectly number, and you went into the numericals, right? I think the example of 100 versus 1000, you actually were able to pinpoint what the exact problem was. I think this is also a learning and a feedback for everybody. When you're articulating some problem, you should pinpoint the exact problem so that the interviewer is able to understand. Because I don't work with HCL, I mean with Unilever, right? So I would not know. But if you're explaining that to me in a way which makes a lot of sense, right? So that was good. Then talking about you also brought in the I versus we concept pretty well. Once I kind of asked you that question, I think that was good enough, right? The other thing was when I asked about how would you do it differently, right? This is also a very common question that is asked, right? In most of these global organizations, how would you do it differently? Again, the answer is, the approach is we don't want a perfect answer, but we would want to see how you're thinking. If given a choice, how would you do it differently, right? Over there, you talked about Excel sheet, which is a good example. Yes, that's one thing. But maybe after I probed, you said that it can be automated. In today's world, maybe you could have answered that even before I asked you that question.
I got it. Yes.
Just one step further, because in today's world, we all think about automation. We think about creating a process which is as much as less manual as possible, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it is, you can't do anything about it, but as much as possible. So maybe you could have kind of told in that way. But again, it's not a wrong answer. It is just that could have been something different, right? So that's my feedback, right? So when we are articulating, we try to anticipate how to make things easier for the interviewer to understand what you are articulating. I think that's the key here, right?
I got it. Yes.
Yeah. But thank you. This is a good, very good, interaction. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next? Team? Which team? Or should I pick?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Megha.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
SSC Harvard.
SSC Harvard. Yes. You want to go? Jyoti and sorry, I see some. Okay, Jyoti from Kavita Computers can go next, sir. Okay, fine. We will go next. So we can talk to Megha first, and then yeah, Megha, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So Megha, what do you do currently? What is your present role? Are you teaching, studying, working somewhere? What do you do?
I'm currently BE's final year.
BE.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is your specialization in BE? Which stream are you specializing in?
Computer science, sir.
Computer science. Okay, very nice. All right. So what is your aspiration? Like, after you, finish BE in computer science, what do you want to do?
I wanted to grow in a technical field, sir.
Okay. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what technical field, like, what do you want to do further? What are your areas of interest?
Hello, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
Now I am audible, sir.
Okay. So I was asking, like, you mentioned you wanted to grow in the technical field. So can you elaborate a little further on that? Like, help us understand what would you want to do?
Yes, sir. I have enrolled in the artificial intelligence with Python courses, sir. I
Okay.
wanted to place in that particular domain, sir.
Okay. So what is that particular domain?
Artificial intelligence, sir.
All right. So that is the entire domain is what you're talking about. Okay, fine. So tell me, like, through artificial intelligence, what is the one big problem you may want to solve for, let's say, India as a country?
Yes, sir. And I wanted to take particularly Karnataka, sir.
Okay, no problem. Karnataka is a part of India. That's fine. Go ahead.
In my village, we have bus problems, sir.
Okay.
Bus problems, sir. From the students from village, sir, they have to travel for our district, sir, for higher
Okay.
education, sir.
Okay.
I wish to solve that, sir.
Okay. That's a very good thought. How would you solve it?
Some using some real-time applications, sir, like Ola and Uber. We have real-time applications, sir. Like that, I wanted to implement something, sir, using KSRTC website, sir.
Okay. Tell me more. Tell us more. What would you do? What are your ideas? What are your thoughts?
Rather than waiting for the buses for an hour, sir, they can get a example like where is my train, sir? We'll
Sorry,
get a real-time
sorry, I didn't understand. Example of?
application, sir. There is
Okay,
an
okay.
application where is your
Okay.
train, sir.
Okay.
Sir. In that, we'll get the exact timings of train, sir, where it is exactly located right now, sir. Like that, sir. For the buses also, we have to implement, sir.
Okay. So how will that help? Like, help us understand like the journey. Like, how are you? What are you going to do there?
Yes, sir. Rather than waiting for an hour for a bus, they will get a time, sir.
Okay.
They'll get a confirmation whether bus is coming or not, sir. Here the students will wait, they blindly, sir. They don't know whether the bus is coming or not. They simply wait for an hour, sir.
Okay.
We are wasting the time, sir. So, sir,
Okay. 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 So how will you implement this? How will you work? Who will you work with? How will you implement this system? Because it's not only about developing an app which the students can see, but to make it successful, you have to work with a lot of this thing, right? So how will you work with? Who will you work with?
sir, related to that, I have to think, sir.
Yes, I'm asking you to think. This is an interview, so you need to think. You only have 30 minutes to crack the interview.
I will approach my MD, sir.
Okay.
And
And
I will, I will tell them about the problem, and we together with the company solve the issues, sir.
okay, all right, sure. Anything else would you do?
Yes, sir.
Is that all that you will do, or would you do anything else?
Yes, sir. This much I can do, sir.
Oh, all right, fine. Thank you, Megha. So, firstly, thank you for participating in the mock interview. I think that is good. So before I share my feedback, others, if you have any thoughts if the same question was asked to you, like, what would you say? Or would you approach it anything differently? Okay. If no feedback, then I will give you a feedback, Mika. So firstly, this is an example of questions that come when like, they ask you, what are you doing currently, and like, what do you want to do? So hence, like, typically answers are, I'm a final year student, or like, after this I would want to help with technology, etc., etc., right? So that these are all fresher kind of questions that typically comes through, right? The approach to these kind of questions for an interview is, you need to be very detailed. One needs to be very detailed, right? Even if, again, you must always remember that when you are answering something, don't think if you're answering wrong. There is no right or wrong, right? It is again the approach. So in this case, if I was you and you were asking me the question as to, like, what would you, I would say, yes, like, I would want to build an app. I would like to work with the government. I would like to work with the technology team. I would like to kind of, create a flow chart and a system, like, which shows that KRCTC buses and this app is linked. So I would give those details. Here in the interview, I had to ask you the question again and again many times. So I was probing, right? I was asking, and then I was trying to get that answer from you, like, where you would be going to the next step, next step, next step, next step. So instead of that, like, if you yourself are able to kind of, answer as much as possible with a very clear example, step by step, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what I would do. I think that's good. I think your idea was very good. I really like the idea. When you're talking about students are wasting time standing and not knowing about the KRCTC bus, that's a great idea. I mean, if you're able to fix it, yes, in the rural areas, that will be a big help. And that is how typically, like, probably, like, you can actually have a good application of your learning and, like, implementation, right? Idea was good, but you have to say more. You have to kind of, go to the detail and explain things in detail, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Then that becomes a good, like, conversation,
Yes, sir.
right? So
Yes, sir.
that's my feedback. So thank you, but thank you. I think thank you for participating, and the idea was good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Jyoti from Kavita Computers can go next. Jyoti,
Yes.
where are you? I can't see you.
Sir.
Raise your hand. Oh yes, I can see you. Yeah, on my screen it is on the right side. Okay, all right. Okay, so so Jyoti,
Okay, sir.
are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do you do? What do you do currently?
Currently, I'm pursuing the AWS course.
You're pursuing the AWS course. Okay. Is this your like, what, have you finished your graduation, or is this the additional course you are doing? What is it?
It's an additional course, sir. I have completed my engineering
Okay.
and communication.
Okay. Engineering, and what was the specialization?
Electronics and communication.
Electronics and communications. Okay. All right. Why did you choose AWS as a course? What are you looking at?
It's one of the latest trending courses, and most talked about technologies
Okay.
in the world.
Okay. But why AWS and why not GCP, which is a Google certification, or a Microsoft Azure? Why AWS specifically?
Because AWS is the market for longer than GCP.
Okay, but don't you think that, like, if GCP is not that longer in the market, but they are Google product at the end of the day, and they are kind of they're the challenger brand, wouldn't you find more opportunities with GCP?
But GCP in AWS has more services and more clients, but GCP is still new. Their customers services should improve.
Okay. Okay, so you are saying AWS has more options, and hence that is the reason why you would have chosen this. Okay, got it. So tell me one application of AWS you would want to implement in the real life. I mean, you would want to do that. as a project. What would that be?
By applying HIPAA compliances in healthcare department, I'm using that services because there are lots of blood banks here in Kalburgi. They are not but process is manual. They are using a manual process, so they don't know about these online. But by using this HIPAA compliances, we need a secure for software also. And if somebody needs blood, they should contact the blood bank manual, and and it takes more time. So I wanted to automate the process.
Okay, sure.
Using AWS.
Okay, sure. So I understand, like, automate the process, the blood bank, and I think I get that part. But again, my question would be, like, can't you do this using, like, a GCP or a Microsoft Azure as well? At the end of the day, this is a cloud services, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
can't you automate the process, or can't you use it for the blood bank using the other two?
But we can, but I felt AWS is easier to learn and has more services. The customer service is better.
Okay. Okay. All right. What else would you do? So how would you implement this service? Are you working currently in a team, or are you working individually to implement this for a blood bank?
We are working in a team. We have 4 members. We have reached out many blood banks and created online questionnaires using Google Form.
Okay. And what is your role in the team?
Leading the teams.
Okay. Who all are the other members in the team? What are their roles?
Some are one of the guy is the website developer. And one person does field work.
Okay.
And one more person is develops the system using the AWS services.
Okay. So what do you do?
I'm managing the team and also work on our AWS services.
Okay. So when you say managing the team, what are the exact responsibilities that you do?
I delegate the tasks and I define weekly targets, and I can manage the records of each team member with doing in a deadline.
Okay. So if you were to do something differently, what would you do?
Use a project management software, or using Agile, you are using Agile methodologies.
All right. So do you have a background in Agile?
Learned in the course.
Okay, learned in the course. All right. Okay, fine. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jyoti.
Thank you, sir.
Any feedback for Jyoti from anybody? Because this is the question, which again is extremely common like, in all the recent, interviews that happens with all the cloud related, topics, like, whether you attend a Microsoft or a startup or like, AWS or whatever it is, they will ask you this question, like, why AWS and why not Google? What is the difference that you find, etc., etc. So, like, yeah. So these are again real-time questions. So, any feedback? I think the teams should start sharing feedback because this kind of questions can come to you also. So,
Yes, so this is Altaf here too.
yeah.
So I like the confidence of the person. At the starting, it was like, she want to think and tell. But when you started posting questions, then when it come for the technical thing, then she started answering the question. And the last part, when you ask like how you do or what else you do after managing, then she told the technical names, like she will be doing the agile thing. So which was like, the new concept, that is thinking out of the box. That's what I could consider on this one, with this kind of things, or the
Yeah.
agile and the things.
Yeah. I agree with Altaf. I think, Jyoti, you handled the overall questions quite well. Of course, like, you can answer in much more detail, or probably like, you can explain, right, in much more details. For example, when I asked you 2-3 times, like, why not GCP versus why not AWS, you can talk about some more features that AWS offers, which maybe GCP doesn't offer, right? Those additional examples would be good. Then talking about, like, this question was also to do a lot with, like, your current role, and in your current role, what do you do, right? So in the previous, like, when I asked Vaishali Computers, I think the question was I versus we, right? Like, what did the team do that does, and what did, like, he himself do. But in this case, you are also leading the team. So the question here is slightly different in the sense, like, so what is your role in managing the team? Correct. So then, Jyoti, you should be answering more in terms of, like, okay, these are my role, team members, and define their roles very clearly. While you said, like, who does what, but then again, like, typically the question was like, oh, if they are doing the work, what are you doing then? Are you just managing them? Are you just kind of, so I think that needs to come more in the sense, like, okay, fine, there's a team that, you manage. This is the responsibility of the whole team. This is what I do. This is what they do, right? And this is how we would want to. Then I think in the end, like, how would you do things differently? You brought in the agile concept. That is good. I think the example was good. There could be follow-up questions or more in terms of, do you know agile, or how much do you know agile? Like, I asked you that question as well, right? So like, do you know agile? Have you learned agile? So if you're confident of handling, then you can answer saying, like, you know agile. But if you're not confident, then don't say agile or something. Think of something which is easy, right? Which you can answer, because then what happens in this case, interview, like, it's a short time and I didn't go in depth, but there can be an interviewer who might ask you in depth, okay, fine, tell me this agile principle, or tell me this thing, or tell me that thing, right? Then the conversation goes to a way which is, like, more tilted towards that. So you should always try to keep the flow which is, like, at an advantageous situation for you. So say those things or articulate those examples, like, which, like, you are confident, basically. So that the learning here is for all of us, that in during the interview, I should be saying or giving examples which, as a follow-up, if people are asking me more, I'm able to answer. Otherwise, I will not even utter that word. Right? I think that's the takeaway. But otherwise, yes, I mean, for the purpose of this, I think that was a good one. So thank you for participating, Jyoti. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good. I think these are some really good, interesting, like, sessions, and I am also learning quite a lot, by the way. Huh? So always remember that the interviewer also kind of, learns quite a bit, like, when we kind of, interact. So I think this is good. So who would want to go next?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm Sriram Kamath.
Yeah, Sriram. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Sriram. Okay, we can go with you next. Sriram, what do you do?
I'm currently pursuing BSc in computer science.
And you're in
Final
the
year.
final year? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. What is your aspiration, Shriram? What would you want to do after this?
Yes, sir. I want to become a AI developer, sir.
Okay.
I want to become, and I want to join a company where I can develop new technologies using AI, sir.
Okay. So why does, like, why do you think AI is something which is the field you have chosen? Like, why not anything else?
Because, sir, I think that most of the industries are going for automation, and there are very less manual works nowadays. So all the industries, they're depending on the AI also. So I think that AI has more what do you call it, scope. So AI has more scope compared to other fields, so where we can do many things in various industries, sir.
Okay. So have you heard of this term called responsible AI?
Yes. Yes.
Like
What,
how
sir?
you should be using AI responsibly. Have you heard of this term, or have you heard of this concept?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why do you think you should be using AI in a more responsible manner? What could be the challenges if you don't use AI in responsible manner?
Yes, there may be many circumstances where we should be responsible with the AI. So, like, there are few AIs which are like weak AIs and strong AIs, and there is a concept in the future there might be a super intelligent AI which will obviously more intelligent the humans, which can go more intelligent than the humans. So in that case, there will be a risk to the humans because of that AI. So if we don't use the AI in the correct way, in this present situation, it can fall into wrong hands and it can be used in unethical ways also. So we should be responsible with the AI, sir.
So how would you prevent the usage of AI unethically? Like, what would you do to ensure that, this is prevented? What can you think of? Or can you think of any such situation where, you may want to recommend something where, AI should not be used in an unethical manner?
Sir, I think their connectivity is gone.
Oh, yeah. I think I am realizing that they would have frozen. I think, yeah, right. I was wondering what happened. Okay, I mean, once they join back, we can kind of, have this. But again, okay, this question for the rest of the group. Okay, Srishti Infotech, I think they are back.
There is a
Are you able to hear us? You're on mute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir. There was a network issue, sir.
Yes. No worries. So my question was, I don't know whether you heard that or not. My question was, how can you use AI responsibly, and how will you do to prevent unethical usage of AI? What would you do?
Yes, sir. Like, we can have a patent on many things, many AI technologies, and we can prevent it from going out of the researches, and we can prevent it from using in an unethical ways, sir.
Okay, patent is one example. What else can you do? Let's say you are working for any of the big organizations, right? And you are working with a team which is with AI, etc. So, and you see something which is probably not the right approach. What would you do?
Okay. I will try to find some alternative way and change the methodologies.
So how would you do that? Like, what if your manager or your boss tells you that, no, this is the way to do it, you have to follow this? What would you do then?
firstly, I would like to bring it to the concerns of the authorities who are handling the company, and to the seniors who are above me. And if they also don't give a positive response to me, then I would like to bring it to the concern of the governing authorities about these activities.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Fine, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so my feedback on this, I think you answered it well overall. You talked about, like, how you would be using AI, and why you have chosen AI, and why that interest area is, right? So this is the kind of questions that I was asking you. These are examples of questions which is more around ethics. So every organization has certain ethics and code of conduct, etc., which is extremely important for an employee to accept, and also to kind of follow. Because, like, if you go against the ethical code of practice, etc., then typically that's a violation of the principles, right? So these questions that I was asking you is very much in line with that kind of interview, right? So, like, what would you do if you face a situation? And there are situations you face, because you may have certain team members, you may have certain your managers or seniors, like, who are probably asking you to do something differently. So what would you do? So hence the question was, like, typically how would you do? But in order to articulate what would you typically do, you can answer something more as well, right? I think before escalating to the higher authorities, or before escalating to, like, the more seniors, what you should be doing is you should be also kind of having a complete understanding of the process. I think that is something what you should mention, because a lot of times, like, we think we are thinking the correct way, but maybe we are not. Number one. Number two, there are a lot of internal trainings and modules that every organization will have. So maybe complete those certifications, complete those trainings, have a clear understanding, then have a conversation saying that, like, yes, I understand this very well, and, like, I want to know why we should not be implementing a project in a particular way. I think that communication is very important even before you kind of escalate it, right? If you still think that things are not working well, then you kind of escalate and bring it to the notice of the higher team members and whatever it is. But before doing that, also do your homework and ground research very well. So that is something
Yes,
which
sir.
you can articulate in the interview, because
Yes, sir.
typically, an interviewer would want to understand your overall mind and thought process with this question, right? It's not
Yes, sir.
only about
Yes, sir.
escalation; it's also about learning, figuring it out, and then escalating.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. That was nice. That was nice. Should we have one L2 interview just for the whole class, and I can pick if that is okay? Anybody volunteer? Any L2 volunteers, or I can pick? Okay, in my screen on the right top, this thing I see Soujanya. Soujanya, are you okay? Are you free?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I have to pick you because you are appearing right on the top in the center. Right?
Not an issue, sir.
That came right there. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's have this mock interview with you, and I think let the whole class also kind of enjoy the conversation, right?
Sure, sir.
All right. Okay. So and we'll go in a proper way, in the sense, like, typically how those interactions happen, right? I'll try to kind of replicate, like, how this typically happens, right? So okay, fine.
Sure.
So starting with it, like, so what do you do, Sajanya? Like, what is your current role? Like, what's a little bit of background from your end?
So I've completed my Master of Computer Applications from 2014 batch from VTU, sir. So after that, I immediately got placed in a company called Excision Infocom as a campus placement. So I worked there for about 1 year, 8 months, and then I got into Samsung, which was basically Herman before, and then got into Samsung. So I've been working there from almost 6.6 years as of now. So Now my current role is senior engineer. So there I'm a BI specialist. So I'll be, we are handling a project called UK National Lottery System, that's Camlot. So the main data load monitoring and the activities, the releases, the EMR cluster buildings, all those activities will be handled by me. So I have two more people with me who I have to lead. So I'll have to basically check what kind of work they're doing and what kind of a load they're monitoring and how they are picking it up. So I'll have to train them on that. My role is to take care of the entire activities.
Okay, sure. And in general, while you're working in Samsung and this role, etc., what's
Yes.
your goal? Let's say, for example, in the next few years, where do you want to see yourself in your career?
Okay, so I'll take myself as an example. So beginning as a fresher, I got into a role called it was a software engineer role. Now I'm into senior engineer role. It is which is equivalent to team lead. So now I can see within 6 years of my experience, like overall experience is about 8 years. So I can see myself as a test lead kind. And moving on to another 2-3 years, maybe I'll be able to take up some exams and get into manager level. So wherein I'll be leading a good number of team members there. So growth is really there. So all we need is improvement day by day and taking up much more courses. That is when I get into this part. So even this will be a training part of me like daily. So it's been a routine now. So even I'm learning a lot of new things with the students.
Okay, sure. So your interest is getting into the managerial and people management kind of roles. Is that what
Yes,
you
sir.
mean, or is it not necessarily people management? It can be project management, but then basically into the management side of things.
Management side, sir.
Okay. So what fascinates you, getting into this management side of things, or why not probably a technical leader versus more of a people leader? What is why do you want to do this?
Sir, I think I'm good at influencing people, like more of a thing while applicable of technical things. I can think more widely than others so that I can put a place in, I can put things all at one place and try to convince them or how to manage them or make it very easy for or feasible how it can be for a team. So in that sense, I think I'll be good in that position. So that is where I'm concentrated.
Okay, sure. But don't you think a project manager can also do that? I mean, you don't have to be a people manager to kind of influence, right? A project manager can also be having a systematic way of doing things. So how is that different from a people manager?
Yes, sir. As far as I've seen, so few managers are good at this, but still the teams are not working so good and pretty well. So at that times, there needs some person who who puts some little effort more and or like more team building activities or however it is put team together. So there are so many things like IT basically works like we are friends, but we are no more friends. It's like that. So there's no team bonding in each and every one. When it comes to teamwork, so that is what I've been stressing to my students also here, saying that when you are doing it in a team, so you'll need that bonding, so that collaboration or talking to each other becomes so important that even though they'll have ideas, they'll not try to put it in place or maybe executing. So in that sense, I think I can make it better.
Okay, sure. And can you share with the group here a real-time example of where you have been able to implement this in Samsung? You faced some situation or how did you go about it?
Many a times actually, sir. So before I was working for a food chain project that's called Cooperative Group Limited. So there, what used to happen? We were dealing with L3 on or L2 kind of issues, wherein we had support team. They were only concentrating on support roles, and they were not helping the testing team. So the testing team entirely wanted to know, and we had a separate CRs which were coming in, so which were pumping us money. So we had to build on it, but testing team never knew or never had an idea how big the project was. So that support team were never collaborating with them. So therein we came into picture and we learned the system from them, or how the things work, or we got testers into pitch us, and we asked them to resolve some issues. So basically they'll try to understand how it is. So that is when they got to know the pain of support team, saying that okay fine, they do have a lot of issues hence where they couldn't help. And that time both came into collaboration and they started working together.
Okay, okay, all right. And give us an example of, like, where you faced a team member who is very challenging to manage, right? How did you handle that?
That actually I haven't come through that situation, but my manager was once giving an example, saying that people are so dramatic or keep complaining on the system, the entire thing which goes on, like why is this like that, why is this like that always, but don't try to improve themselves, but literally try to blame or put it on each other's. So that is when I learned, like, okay, when you're assigning it to somebody, work it divided properly, saying that this should be completed by this time, or this task should be mentioned on this person, so that they do it eventually before time or on time, with that. So I personally haven't experienced this, but my manager was once giving an example of this.
Okay, sure. And how important is process versus freedom in your work, or anything that you would want to do? What is more important for you? Yeah, would like to know.
Sometimes freedom also. So sometimes, like girls will have some challenging roles than men. Not biasing, but still, girls will have definitely a lot more challenges than other people. So giving them their own pace or their own speed, and not that process is not important. There is always a process which has been defined, because there are boundary lines when you come to supporting projects and all. There will always be some deadlines or the SLAs which we can't breach. So in that case and all, it shouldn't be like somebody's stressing on you, or somebody is on your head, so that it's been completed within 1 or 2 hours. No, you have SLA of 24 hours, so that you can analyze or try to fix it. Maybe sometimes if some issue is coming repeatedly, so that they take their own time and analyze the issue and try to fix it from the code level, saying that the issue never comes again. So it will be complete stress-free life for that at that time. So I think freedom is more important than the process. Like when describing it, maybe first and second.
Okay, so freedom is first and process is secondary.
Yes.
In your opinion, okay?
Yeah, in my perspective.
Yeah, sure. So in a company like Samsung, which is very process driven, right?
Yes, sir.
Typically, like end to end, like anything that you do and whatever functions are. How do you balance this? Like what are the challenges you face? How do you balance it? How would you probably do things a little differently? If you can share with us.
Balance it is like sometimes maybe we'll not be able to work in the same time, maybe because of some other work or processes. So our ultimate goal is mainly like what we can consider as like being prompt to the company. I mean, at least make justice to ourselves, saying that we are doing 100% for what we are achieving. So making sure that our deadlines are completed. And on top of that, if you have to achieve anything else, make sure that the team is also doing the same, because there'll be some juniors who've joined new or who doesn't know the process, or train them, or some important topics take some, because we have some of the seminars or tech talks which will be there, or some other courses will be sent, links will be sent. So doing those certifications and each and everything will be there. Are so many activities also, so that participating in each and everything will make you some relief time and make you fresh also, and those good vibes will come inside you, so that you pick it up each and every time. So that makes you definitely special and outstanding from the team. Apart from your regular work, make sure that we also cover other things, like not only these, we have other competitions. Every quarter we have some interesting things to be discussed. Maybe this time that was Diwali, so we had so we had to visit some blind centers, and also we were happy that we made them color the diyas. Like we explained them which color it is and how to color it. So there are some activities which is going on. So not that manager is noticing directly, but still all those messages will go to them. So that will make you stand out of the box, like think apart.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. I wouldn't
so much,
bother you with more questions, But I
No
think
problem,
thank
sir.
you for participating. And the reason why I wanted one of the L2s to participate, and I mean, you came up in the screen and we kind of, conversed, is because I wanted the rest of the class to also understand that, like, from an experience point of view, you have so many years of experience and you work in an IT organization. Like, you have seen the world so much, right, in terms of the
Yes.
work, etc. And hence my question to you was mostly around the behavioral and the practical questions around how do you balance, or how would you kind of approach, or what is it that you would do something, like a real-time example, right? I wanted the class and all the students to understand that, like, while practicing for interview or discussing in a class is very different than also when you actually start working yourself,
Work.
right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So I think Srishti Infotech, like, just before this, like, kind of talked about, like, you may want to escalate to a higher authority. The concept is fine, nothing wrong. But if you ask Saujanya, if she has to escalate, she may escalate it. But then how she will do it is important, right?
Yeah.
She will probably go through the whole process, and all the examples what she talked about here is important. Like, first being comfortable, trying out, and then kind of going one step further, etc., to ensure that, like, you are escalating to the right audiences, right set of, like, people, etc., right? So who can help as a team. So it is very important to navigate through. And also these questions what I was asking, like, is very common. If you actually like, interview for any of the organizations, and especially once you have some experience, right? I think in this group, like, few people have some years of experience. Once you have some experience, then typically like, they would want to know more about your experience, how the real time situation was, how good a team player were you, what were the challenges that you observed, and how did you fix it, right? What is your broader area of thinking? I think, Sajanya, you talked about, like, it's not only about process, but it's also about, like, team bonding, and sometimes that is missing. Maybe in the Zoom, this is even more difficult, right?
Yes, sir.
So how would you typically go one step further to actually, like, being true to the work, being true to, like, the project, being, like, together? So I think this element of team bonding, element of, like, working in a group and a team, I think these are very important examples which I wanted, like, everybody to kind of listen and understand. So so thank you again, once again, for sharing this, and it was a good interaction.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for giving
Thank you.
this opportunity.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, great. So all right, so any questions for me, anybody, any L2s or any groups or anything that's for me, that you have? I mean, I have been asking questions and we have been doing the role plays, but do you folks have any questions for me?
Yes, sir. Not questions as such. Uh, I just want a idea from you. Okay. I do manage a team in my office. So one of the team member, when I give him a task to complete it, the other team members have a a straightway approach. Like they go type some code, fix it, debug it, test it, and implement it. So one of the team member, when I give him a task, what he does it is he doesn't do that exactly. He goes and he roundabouts it in the sense he goes and experiment that instead of like he knows that this is the straight way approach, but instead of that he does kind of a R&D, and he doesn't complete the task in the stipulated time, so the team can finish the entire process. What he does is he tries the other methods which is not the correct approach, and then he just time passes it and he tells that it is not working. When even we tell that this is the straight way approach, please do this one, he doesn't listen to that thing, but he does his in own way. So how to handle him? But it is not like he doesn't know that. He knows this straight way thing to approach, but he keeps on trying on various methods which it most of the times it doesn't work. But as a team we are like bounded to complete the task in a stipulated time, and he doesn't adhere with for the team thing. So how to go ahead with this? It's good that he tries the different approaches, but as a team I need to complete the task in that particular schedule. So how to handle the team member?
Sure. I'll
That's
be
what I
happy
want
to
to.
I'll be happy to answer that question. So there are two things that one must remember in a situation like this. So either the team member is really of the, and I don't know the team member, hence I don't know what
Yes.
the person is, but either the team member might be extremely inquisitive nature and who may want to try out different multiple stuff. I think that's a natural tendency some people have, or the team member just is not interested and he thinks or she thinks that my way or the highway kind of a approach, right? So which is again something a lot of people have their attitude, right? But if I were you, I would tell the person two things. One, if you are a part of the team and there is a chain involved, right? Everybody's task is important so that the group project is involved. You need to first do this because that is your most important task at hand and you have been hired for that, right? In addition, we appreciate your experimentation mode. You can always experiment on 20% of your time or maybe 10% of your time, right? So that we are not stopping you from experimenting at all. Please do that, but do that which doesn't have the impact on the core job. One is always hired to do their core job first. That is what they get paid for. If the core job is not happening, then I think this is a time to kind of have a very straight conversation, right? I have seen such situations in my own career as well, wherein very similar, I think brilliant team members, but they would kind of go here and there. So I observed it, and then I have called people and I've sat them through and I've told them right very straight on the face that we value you to the work that you bring into the table, and we feel that you have a lot of talent, but if it's not an individual contributor role, it's a team role. Hence your work, if it is not completed on time, affects everybody, right? So there's a dependency.
So that is what it's happening. Like I can't finish in the Jira when we put another.
So you have to have a very straight direct conversation, very straight direct conversation that and it's good to be assertive here, saying that if it's not working this way, then probably it will not work out with anybody, right? So tell him that. At the same time, you encourage him, saying nobody's stopping you from experimenting or trying out your own stuff, but do it at a time which is 20% of your project time, or maybe outside work, and then if you come back to us with some additional solution, then that is absolutely fine, right? But time is to have a very direct straight conversation, because sometimes we need to be right on the face, telling that you do this or it doesn't work.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's what I was fiddling with this guy, what to do with him. He is actually a knowledgeable guy, but at times he deviates his thing and he goes in his own world or in own way to do, and doesn't come back on time.
No, it happens with a lot of people.
It hampers for entire productivity.
No, it happens with a lot of people who are knowledgeable, who would want to kind of experiment. So as I said, it is okay to experiment. That's absolutely fine. We're not trying to stop you, but not at the cost of the core project. That is important. So priority number one is this, and after that you do whatever. So I think it's a straight conversation and a very hard conversation that you should have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This is out of context of today's topic, but still I want to get an opinion from you, how to go ahead with this one.
No, this is again a good question, because these are real-time examples, and this is exactly the challenge that you are facing. So tomorrow, even in the interview also, people can ask about a certain challenge like this, and then what would the person do? I think this is a learning for all of us, right? So I think that's fine.
That's all as of
Sure.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
One question from my side, sir. Sir, if I'm attending for a AI software developer or some job role, so the interviewer asks me a question there is an ABC, some technology that is developed in AI in some XYZ country. Do you know it? So if I typically don't know anything about that, should I directly say that, yes, sir, I don't know about it? Or how should I attend that, sir? That question?
If you don't know, then I think the best way to answer is accepting it, saying that you don't know, right? Yes. Instead of beating around the bush or trying to figure out an answer. If you don't know, you don't know, and that's fine. Everybody will not know everything. That is absolutely okay. Unless, of course,
Yes.
it's a very basic and a simple thing which everybody is expected to know. That's a different issue altogether, right? But if it is
Yes,
something
sir.
which you don't know, you don't know. And it has happened to me also a lot of times. It happens to me now also, right? During a lot of the, not necessarily interviews, but even during the meetings, etc. A lot of times, like, there are certain terms used or there are certain examples given. I always raise up my hand and say, you know what, I really don't know. So I would love to learn, but then it's good to accept it.
Yes, sir.
It's fine.
And one more question, sir. So we are working as a team now in our center. So there are like 10 to 15 members of us. So in that, some 4 or 5 members are not doing their task properly.
Yeah.
So should I address them as a group together, or should I individually talk to them about what is the problem exactly? Why are you not doing this right?
I think
What should be my approach, sir?
I think the first approach should be addressing them as a group to understand, like, as a group, totally, like, how teams are how people are kind of feeling, right? Because it could be a group thing. And then you may also want to address them individually as well. So it's a combination of both the things, right? So addressing them as a
Yes, sir.
group and trying and understanding. See, group is always a better way to approach, because, like, then you're collective, then you're being together with everybody and you're doing a collective. It's more democratic, right? And then, of course, like, understanding there are certain pain points what the individual has, then you definitely kind of go ahead and talk to the individual also. Sometimes a lot of people are shy in the group. They want to be talked separately, which is fine as well, right? So
Yes,
these are
yes.
different ways of doing it. So I think both the combination is good to do.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good. I think this is nice. Anything else? Any other questions? I think we're almost at the time.
I think we can wind up because
Okay.
students who are there
Sure.
are kind of 7:15.
Sure. No,
Over
I
public
was
transport
thinking
time.
the same. Yeah. I was thinking the same. I think we should wind up and we'll catch up in the next class on Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay then. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.